Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to answer a question, talk about a subject that I actually get asked a lot. But this specific question was sent to me by one of you, which I love. So please continue to do that. Send me your questions and comments. But the question itself is a big one, and I think it's really important to talk about it right now because we are in such a state of flux and change, lots of endings, lots of beginnings. If you're feeling it, you know what I'm talking about. So the question, why am I here? What is my purpose? Big question. And I actually get asked that question quite a bit, as I said. So I think at some point in our lives, we are all faced with that question. Maybe a lot. Maybe that's a question that we've been wrestling with for years. Maybe it's a question that we've been wrestling with for weeks. Maybe after we find a sense of purpose, we keep asking ourselves that question. And maybe there's a reason for that, right? So I'm not necessarily talking about occupation. I think that that's a confusion that makes it challenging to find our purpose because sometimes we think it is associated with what we do for work, for money, that kind of thing. But I don't think it necessarily is. Sometimes it is correlated. Sometimes our purpose becomes our work. That can absolutely be accurate and true. It is in my case, but not in everybody's, and it doesn't need to be. I think that, and to go deeper with that, it's not that the work that we do, it's the energy that we receive from the work that we do that we're really connecting with anyway. So it's important to recognize we're not talking necessarily about, what's my job? But what is it then? What is that sense of purpose that we are looking for? It's that sense of fire. It's that sense of ignition and passion where intuition meets will, meets, sort of that zone of where anything is possible and unlimited potential. And we're starting to co-create our reality. It's this dynamic energy of shift and change and growth and evolution that we're meant to embrace. I think it's words like teaching, inspiring, learning, leading, being. I mean, these are passion-filled, purposeful words. It's about following the steps that are put in front of us. I think that's important to recognize. It's about following what's showing up, and it's about locating and nourishing that acorn seed of possibility. Thank you, Joseph Campbell, that we have within all of us. When he said, follow your bliss, find that acorn seed of potential within you. And your job is to water it and honor it and to allow it to grow. So I think that's an important part of purpose, is understanding what it is we're actually looking for. But, I think in a big picture way, our purpose here is to find our purpose. And then how that looks specifically can change and shift from person to person and in our own lifetime. What I felt like my purpose was 10 years ago was, in a nutshell, it was similar to what I'm doing now. It's always been about being of service and helping people and being a teacher and being an advocate and a healer. But the way that showed up was a little bit different. And I think that's important when we're looking at purpose, is it's not a destination. Like, you got there, good for you. You get the gold star, now you're done. It is something that continues to shift and change and grow as we evolve. So why is it so hard, though? Why is this the question that we even have to answer? Why is it we read books? We go to tarot readers. We go to psychics. Why am I here? We ask that question. Why is it? It keeps us up at night. Because a few different reasons, and I'll be talking about those as I continue this video. But most specifically, I think that we have a pretty romanticized view of purpose. I think we pine for that moment that the heavens open and we have an epiphany, and the angels are singing and we're going, that's my purpose. Those kinds of moments happen certainly when we are initiated into a new phase of our life, we can seek those moments out. We can go on vision quests. We can take moments of silence. We can do deep meditation. We can go deeply into a space where we are open and receptive to those epiphany type moments. I think those happen, but I don't necessarily think that that's the way they're supposed to happen. And I don't think they happen like that for everyone. And I don't think they happen like that all the time. I think we can get those light bulb moments, but I don't know if those are the ones that necessarily sustain the long haul with purpose. I think they can kind of wake us up and say, hey, pay attention, and that's important. But I think it takes the daily grind of normal everyday insight mixed in with those moments of epiphany. So, just to recognize that our purpose is there, but we live in the shoulds, and purpose and shoulds are sort of the opposite. They're oxymorons in a way, because we live in a world of, you should do this, you should do that, you should say this, women do this, men do that, and this kind of thing. And that keeps us from saying, where's my desire? Where's my heart leading me? What am I inspired to do? We're traveling the journey with this and not this, right? The head, not the heart. And when we do that, when we misalign with that, we often get very off track with our sense of purpose. So the shoulds keep us from finding it. So that can be one way that it's difficult. I also think that we live in the land of memes where, our society, our families, culture, like unconscious programming from past lives. I mean, I don't know, but we have all of this story about how money, jobs, stuff, cars, accolades, these things make us happy, right? We sort of live in this idea, this bubble of accumulating more knowledge, more this, more that. And I think that that's actually a huge problem when we're trying to connect to our sense of purpose. We sort of, again, use our head, not our heart, and we go, these are the benchmarks, these are the milestones that I'm supposed to be doing that have just been downloaded into my psyche about what being a success means. I think that can really shut down our own inner wisdom, our inner lighthouse that's pointing out where we need to go. It's saying, shining a light over here, but we're going to miss it if we're so busy saying, this is where I need to go. So I think that that's another block, and why it makes it challenging to just, kind of flow into a sense of purpose. Your purpose is actually not out there. And that's another piece that's really important to recognize. Your purpose is actually happening right now. Right now, in this moment. Maybe listening to this is part of your purpose. Certainly part of mine in making this. So your purpose is happening right now. So what does that mean? In our inner lives, in our outer lives, our purpose is showing up all over the place. The experiences that you are going through right now, the challenges, the struggles, the validations, all of them are important to give you information about your purpose. They're either trying to, tell you, yes, there's a sense of flow and you're on the right path, or resistance, hey, you got to get off this. There's a sense of challenge or undoing some of those memes that I just described, or beliefs that get into our psyche. So this is important to recognize. What's happening in front of you is part of recognizing and embracing your purpose. It always is. So there's a difference. It's important that we talk about this here. There's a difference between fate and destiny. And it's important to understand what that means when we're talking about that in relation to our sense of purpose. So fate can be seen as the cards were dealt. Born into the family that I was, that you were, born where I was, you know, all of that, my genetics and DNA, that's part of who I am. That's my fate. I can't go back and change that. I can't choose, I suppose I could choose another lifetime, but I can't choose another lifetime in this one right now. My parents are my parents. My past is my past. That is part of the DNA that I have. Those are part of the cards that I am dealt. Now, your destiny would be how you play the cards. And very little is actually fated in our lives. There are certain events that are fated and things like that. But it's actually quite rare compared to the amount of destiny that we have. So we have a lot of co-creative power in our reality. That's important to recognize when we're talking about purpose, because our purpose is found in our destiny. It's sort of like the template that we have in our fate. I think there's a level of understanding where we say this is part of the template of my purpose, but whether or not we find it and how deeply we connect to it and how, you know, how the road kind of winds, we take the long way, we take the short way, we kind of have to do a mixture of both. All of that is really based on our destiny, on the choices we make with the cards that we are dealt. So our fate can certainly put us in situations. It can open certain doors. It can place people in our lives. It can create choice points in our lives. That can be part of fated events. But all of that could be happening right in front of us. But if we don't see it, you know, it is our destiny to take the hint, to follow the instructions, to take the gifts when they're given. So it's up to us to see it. And oftentimes, fated events aren't necessarily fun. There are definitely times when things happen in our lives that seem like they're really challenging or even bad, or they shouldn't be happening, when in fact those are the very things that are getting us to wake up to our destiny and ultimately to our purpose. So it's important to remind ourselves of that. Sometimes the most challenging relationships we have are the soulmates that have made deep agreements with us to teach us something super important about our destiny and ultimately about our purpose. So your purpose is happening right now. The people in your lives, the health conditions you're going through, whatever it is, this is important to finding your sense of purpose through your own destiny. You know, our lives are forever challenging us to claim this destiny. It's just oftentimes that we don't necessarily see it, or we don't agree with it, or we're too locked into what we should be doing, or we're too focused on something else where we miss it. So it can often keep us from noticing the doors when the doors are right in front of us. And even the suggestions of other people that tell us, you know, I think it's important to recognize that there's a lot of amazing people out there that have found a sense of purpose or destiny within their own lives. And that's awesome. That's great. And they might actually say to you, hey, you should do this because this is amazing. And, or you see them doing it and you're going, oh, I want to do that. But the important thing to recognize is that's their purpose. That's their destiny. And while you can take inspiration from that to give you information about your own, it actually may not be yours. So even in the most well-meaning of situations, and I go to a lot of, or I should say I've been to a lot of conferences and things like that where people are super inspired and I want to do what that person's doing. And that's awesome. I think that's super important for learning, and we'll talk about that. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're supposed to be doing that exact same thing if that's not yours, right? So important to recognize that. Our purpose, okay, some other reasons why it's challenging to claim it. Our purpose is found outside the comfort zone. I've not known anybody that has been able to really claim a sense of purpose in their lives being super comfortable. It doesn't work like that, because purpose by definition means we're going to change. Change implies that we were going to leave a space that feels comfortable and move into a space that feels less familiar. which equates with uncomfortable or unfamiliar. So it's one and the same. Purpose begins at the end of our comfort zone a lot of the time. That doesn't mean that we stay there all the time. For example, leaps in purpose, we might get out of our comfort zone, make a choice, take a risk, and then get comfortable there. And that becomes our comfort zone. And then as we're moving forward with our purpose, we take it up a notch. We step out of our comfort zone again, grow, change, evolve, claim a new sense of purpose, feel comfortable again. So that's kind of the path. We tend to like to stay safe though. So if we're having issues with purpose, we need to look at our relationship with getting out of our comfort zone. And oftentimes I will suggest to clients that you just get out of your comfort zone, do things differently, drive a different way to work, use your, if you're right-handed, use your left hand to brush your teeth, totally change up your routine. And what's amazing is new information starts to come in. So another reason why we have a difficult time with this is we are really a left brain culture. We don't necessarily utilize or teach how to access and trust intuition. Purpose is found in intuition. Certainly there is some logic when we get a flash of insight that we need to say, okay, well, how does that actually look in reality? And that's where a logical brain can be helpful. But purpose is really found in a sense of knowing, in accessing a part of us that isn't our logical mind. The other thing I think is important to recognize, and it's kind of a touchy space to go, but I think it's important that we go there, is that culturally, I think we live in kind of a victim mentality where we look at the world as if it's happening to us and not for us. That belief will keep you from embracing it and harnessing and exploring your sense of real purpose in the world. Because, ultimately that is how our purpose talks to us. It's a series of wake-up calls to get our attention. So the world, this is happening for us, not to us, is where we want to get to. But if we come from that more victim space where it's happening to us, not for us, we will block purpose every time. The other piece that can be challenging is that purpose takes immense trust. This kind of goes back to the heart, it goes back to intuition, it goes back to all those places. It takes trust, and we tend to like certainty, just as a human race. That's sort of a biological thing. We like to feel safe. And so trust is super, super important. So if you've had issues with trauma, if you've had betrayal issues or abandonment issues, some of those core woundings, there's 3 core woundings, and abandonment, betrayal, and shame. And if you're mixing some of those big guns together, you might have an issue with trust in general. So that can make it very difficult for you to really embrace your purpose because you need trust to get there. So oftentimes, when we move forward, we want to remove any of the blocks that are keeping us from finding this innate acorn seed of possibility within us. So that's an important piece to recognize as well. If there is a challenge that keeps repeating in your life, if you seem to be dating the same person dressed up in different relationships, right? If you are continually having money issues, health issues, esteem issues, if things keep showing up in your life and there's a sense of pattern to them, this is super important that you look at. It's about saying, what's the pattern I need to break? What's the belief? What's showing up? It's like a series of wake-up calls, as I said, saying, hey, check this out, because it's blocking you from something super important. Obviously, you're continually putting the same information in, and then you're getting the same information out. And if you're getting the same information out, we need to figure out, what are you putting in, right? So if you are feeling bored, if you are feeling burned out, if you are feeling stagnant, lost, uninspired, purposeless, in other words, these are also indications that it's time to take a look at what's happening in your life and where you're blocking this flow from showing up. Remember, life is happening for you, not to you. So how does that change your perspective when you look at your life that way? What could it actually be offering you? Now, I don't want you to see this from a punitive place. It's happening for you, not to you. And it's like, it's punishing you in some way. That's not it. It has your back. In all of this challenge and all the shadow stuff we reveal, there's amazing potential. Sometimes it's just really hard to see. I know, I'm with you. So your purpose, again, is happening right now in your life. What is your life telling you? Purpose is like stepping stones along a path of self-realization. Remember that I said it's not a destination that you just get to and, you're good. You're done. You can sit in a chair and just chill. It's not how purpose works. Your purpose is almost happens in hindsight. The times in my life that I've noticed that I'm truly in alignment with my purpose has been when I've thought, oh, wow, look, I'm doing this. How did I get here? It's not that I had the inspiration and set a path. I'm going to do this. It actually was me kind of checking in and saying, wow, this is happening. I'm actually doing this. So it's important to remember that. It's like one day after, working your tail off, walking this walk, you look back and you see the path that you just laid, so to speak, and you realize you're walking the path of purpose. So purpose is simple. It's not necessarily easy. That's important to remember as well, because it takes moving upstream. It takes moving outside of your comfort zone, and it's imperative. It's a natural flow. Our issue is that we often place these blocks in front of our purpose. It's like a river that wants to flow, and we put these dams, in it, and then we're wondering why it's not flowing. So where are the dams? Remove those. That's where you will find the flow. I remember that a great example of this, I've had many, but when it comes to what I do now and how I got into this field. So my first degree is in nutrition, and I didn't quite know what I was going to do with that. I had recovered from an eating disorder myself. I was very passionate about working with eating disorders. I didn't have any idea how I was going to do this. I didn't know what I was going to do at all. So I kind of put it out there, and I just put it out there to the universe, which is something we'll talk about how to do that. So I put it out there, and I honestly don't know how this happened, but I get a call kind of out of the blue, really. I think it was like friend of a friend of a friend, let somebody know. And from a colleague of mine that was starting an intensive outpatient eating disorder clinic on Maui, which is where I'm from. And she said, hey, I got your name. I'm really interested in meeting you. And it kind of caught me off guard. I was surprised. Okay, great. So I said, sure, where are you? And she says, well, I have an office up in Makua, which is a town up country on Maui. And I said, that's funny. I'm in Makua right now. And she said, really? And I said, yeah, where's your office? And she says, well, it's right next to Casanova's, which is a restaurant in Makua. If you know Maui at all, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I said, are you kidding me? Because I'm literally walking towards Casanova's. And I turned around and I looked, and her office was right there. I could see it. I was standing in front of her office. Synchronicity. That was a moment of grace. Something shifted in which the universe said, here, check this out. So I went in. It was an interesting day. I walked in. I didn't have my resume. I certainly wasn't dressed for a job interview, and I told her that. And at the time, the executive director of the entire program in Hawaii was there, and so was she. And they did an interview, and they hired me. And that really started my journey, and professional journey, I should say, in psychology and helping and healing in the capacity that I do it now. So from that moment to here, important to recognize the doors are there if we can just remove the blocks to get them to open. And those blocks are what's showing up for you in your life right now. So when we remove the blocks, things tend to just start to fall into place. So think about those things that are falling into place for you. Or if they're not, why aren't they? So how do we find it? What are some tips? What can we do? First step, ask for help. And that can mean ask the universe, God, your flavor of divinity, whatever that is, put it out there. I need some help here. I would like my purpose. I would like some information about how that's going to happen. So you ask for help, put it out there, and then you wait for signs. And this is where we really start to look at your life as happening for you, not to you. So little things that pop up here and there, repeated songs, open doors like I just explored, people walking into your world saying, hey, yeah, are you interested in this? I've been at bookstores and opened a book and had a card fall out and then realized that that's exactly what I was needing. So important to ask for help and then look for the signs, and also ask for help from other people. So I always say ask for help from, out there, and then ask for help. Put it out on Facebook. I'm looking for some, what do I need? So start asking people you trust for help too. A great tool is to ask people that you care about how they see your purpose. Because sometimes people can see us better than we can see ourselves. It's like a fish looking for water. It's everywhere. We can't see it, but someone can look at us and say, this is what you're meant to be doing. So that's important too. Signs, synchronicities, all that stuff. If you ask for purpose, you're going to get challenges. That's another piece. So say that one of your purposes here is to really understand forgiveness. We'll just use that one. I think that's probably all of ours to a certain extent, but maybe that's like your jam. So if you're meant to, you put out the energy, I want my purpose, and you're meant to understand forgiveness, what you will get is plenty of opportunities to practice. If you're meant to be a healer, then you will have to understand how to heal your own life. So you're going to start automatically manifesting some stuff coming up. That's how that works. So that's number one. Ask for help. Number two, what is your life showing you? Right? We went through all that. You're getting the picture with that one. Now with that one, by the way, this is why a lot of people come and talk to me, quite frankly, because they are saying, what is my life showing me? It's hard to look at your own life sometimes and saying, what is the message here? What am I meant to be learning from this? How could this be happening for me? So if you need some help with that particular one, go and find someone that can really sit with you, hold space, and help you process what that looks like. Okay, cool. 3, remove blocks and follow your intuition. This kind of goes with the last one, but start to engage your intuition more. That's super important. I have on my website, on the Holistic Health Hour, I think there's a whole intuition, like 4 or 5, I think. I know there's at least 2. I can't remember. I haven't been there in a while. But there's a lot of podcasts on intuition, how to develop it. Check that out. I do intuition classes all the time. I know there's lots of people out there. There's books. Like, what does that mean to reconnect to your intuition? Very important. Your logical mind wants certainty. It wants a spreadsheet. It wants to say, this is what's going to happen. This is what my purpose looks like. I'll know when I get there. You can't spreadsheet your way to purpose. Doesn't work like that. There's no Excel spreadsheets for purpose. But paying attention to flashes of insight, synchronicities, I love that. It's so crazy how you ever get that where you'll get a flash of insight, like write that book, do that thing. Such an important piece. It's where I get a lot of my topics, honestly, that come here, that I talk about here. So another important point, more about unlearning than learning more. You probably don't need more data. You need to unlearn some shizzle that you learned previously that's not helping you. That's true. So it's going back to the truth of who you are without all that other BS, without all the other stories, without the editing, without the shoulds. Who are you really? That's what this experience is of exploring purpose is really about. So it's not about getting more. It's about understanding who you are without all that other stuff. Michelangelo said that, it's cool, he said his statues were already present. He just had to chisel out the parts that didn't belong. I think that's so important with purpose, is we are already ready to live that sense of flow, but we have to chisel away all the bullshit that's keeping us from it. So for me, for as long as I can remember, people came to me for help. From the time I was in kindergarten, I was meeting people on the playground, and people would ask me for help, and I was always standing up for the person that was bullied, or I always was an advocate, and I was always seeking and learning and asking why, and I was always talking. When I was 14, I was giving advice, and I have no idea where I came up with this stuff, but people were like, wow, that's amazing. I've always had this part of me. When I was young, I got in so much trouble for talking, and pretty much every single report card that I have, it says that Aleka's great, but she's really social, which meant she talks too much. I got a lot of flack from my parents for that. I had nicknames. Isn't that interesting? Because this is what I do now. I talk basically for a living, and I can't not help people. I mean, I'm in the grocery store, and I hear the life story in the line, as I'm waiting to check out. So it's part of what I am, and I need to embrace that part. But I think a lot of that was edited. A lot of my intuition was edited. I got caught up in a lot of shoulds, and I had to get rid of all that other stuff to be able to claim who I am and how I uniquely help other people. And obviously the first person I had to help was me. So that's part of really about unlearning than embracing more information. Do more of what you love. That's huge. Do more of what you love. And I know that's sort of seems like it should be just, yeah, that's easy. Yeah, I should do more of that. But actually, we need to work on that, because I think we can get so fixated on work and routine, and I got to do this and I got to do that, and I got all these balls in the air, and I have to finish this. And are we even asking ourselves if we're in alignment with it? Do we love it? I know we live in a culture that's very shaming of quitting. And I get it. I mean, I understand where it comes from. I understand that there are times that being tenacious and being resilient and sticking it out is important. I do. I think that's important. But I think we err on the side of shaming quitting to a place that it becomes unhealthy, where we stick it out. It's supposed to be hard. You're supposed to have to work at this. It's challenging. I remember getting the message early on that, nothing's for free, in pursuit of excellence at all time, and if you're hurting, that just means you're working hard. And that is just bullshit. I think that we are meant to explore what we love. We should spend more time doing that. I think if we all get to the end of our life, we're not going to look back on it going, I should have hit myself with a pain stick more. I really should have just worked harder and did that thing I really didn't like. I don't think we're going to say that. I think we're going to mourn the missed opportunities of not loving what we do. Life is way too short to not at least practice joy. This doesn't mean that we're not going to have times where we're going to have to, do our taxes and deal with those detail type stuff. But let's practice doing what we love. What do you love to do? It's such an important question, and it's such a question that I don't think we get asked enough. And what typically happens with that, because it is usually shamed in us when we're younger, is we do it in ourselves. So we'll say, oh, you know what I would love to do? And by the way, when I hear this, when clients say this, I pay attention to that. So if you say that to yourself, what would you love to do? You need to write that stuff down. Okay. You need to say, this is what I love to do. That's important. That's one of those insight moments. But what we often do, because we're so used to it, is this is what I would love to do, but I'm not going to make any money at it. It takes too long. I can't do it. And I get it. The end seems like you have no idea how you're going to be able to do that. Purpose is about just taking the next step. It's not about needing to figure out the rest of the journey. Remember, stepping stone by stepping stone by stepping stone. So if you love gardening, go garden. If you love music, go do it. If you have an insight to learn cooking, go do it. And the reason why that's important is because purpose isn't necessarily about being an amazing chef. If you feel like you have a part of you that says, I need to learn cooking, then you should go learn cooking because, or, do you know what will happen is maybe you'll be in that class and all of a sudden you'll meet this person that changes your life. You're like, whoa, I met this person, they offered me this amazing job, or they had a house and I needed one, I needed a new house to rent, or whatever it is. It's amazing to me how in my own life, for example, I was pretty confused. Is a nice way of saying that. I was pretty lost for a while there. And sometimes I still feel lost, just FYI. But in my late teens, I was pretty confused because I had all these programs of what I should be doing, but I felt so disconnected from all that. I didn't feel like I wanted to do any of that. I didn't feel like it was my heart. So I did what I wanted to do, and I started teaching diving. I worked in a dive shop for pretty much my entire teenage years, and it was just osmotic because my mom is a really well-known dive instructor on Maui, and so it was sort of like I grew up diving. I was diving since I was 9. So it was sort of part of my life, but I actually loved it. I love being underwater, and I still love being underwater. It's an amazing experience. So I started doing that, and I remember getting a lot of flack from other well-meaning people in my life that said, are you just going to do this your whole life? Like, is this what you're going to do? There was something wrong with it. And actually I did do it for a while, and then that led me to something else. And I did it. I loved it, and I did it for a long time. And I didn't know why I had to do it, but I just knew I did. Well, fast forward like 15 years, and I'm taking a moment in life where my purpose is now teaching me about trauma and trauma recovery and what that looks like. So I'm doing these years of study of trauma and different models and stuff like that. And what was crazy is the stuff that I learned teaching diving, because I was the one that would always take the people that were terrified and scared diving. I took people that near drowning accidents that literally people have this thing that when you're diving, if you panic, often what they do at 10 feet, under 15 feet, is they rip off their mask and they rip out their reg and they shoot to the surface, which is completely counterintuitive to what you should be doing because you're throwing away the things that will make you feel better, but that's just a natural reaction. So those people would be sent to me. So I worked for years with people with significant panic doing something that was terrifying to them. It taught me more about working with panic and anxiety and trauma and all of that than any of the actual training that I did. Interesting how that works. So purpose, sometimes those things that we're led to are absolutely part of the purpose and we have no idea why. I call it life is a series of right angles. We go down, we say, okay, well, this is important for some learning. And, oh, I'm going to go here. Oh, and that takes me there. And then 10 years down the line, we say, oh, that makes total sense. I get why I did that. But in the moment, we may not quite understand it, except that we love it and we're called to do it. So focus on that. Where is your bliss, right? Follow that. And sometimes that's a practice. That's not always easy to do. Okay, look for the open doors. This is important. The purpose should feel challenging, but it should flow. Just like that experience I shared where the building was right there. It was like, here I am. So it should feel like an opening. Oh, this is pretty easy. Wow, they just took my resume. Oh, this is easy. Where'd that come from? That's important. Now, if you feel a lot of resistance, and it's real resistance, not ego or fear or story or that stuff, right? It's real. Like my car keeps breaking down. Or the other day I was doing, I had one of these video things that I wanted to do. And it was funny because literally I couldn't do it. First, the phone rang, so that was annoying. Then the computer went off. I don't know what happened. Like the the place that I record this stuff stopped. So then I started again. Then my internet went out. So I got the message. This isn't the thing to do right now, clearly. And ironically, it was a different topic than I'm doing right now, which clearly wasn't the topic I need to be talking about. So this one is whatever. Anyway, it can be small like that. It can be big. If things are flowing in your life and it's just happening, that's right. If there's a sense of resistance and no matter what, weird things are just kind of popping up and it's making it really hard, it's not meant to be. Or you need to pay attention and ask yourself, what is this? A lot of times when we're trying to put a square peg in a round hole, it's really hard. It doesn't work. And so if you're noticing resistance, and some of that resistance can be, I don't want to do this anymore. Whatever I'm doing isn't working. That's important. You pay attention to that. Okay. Open doors, go there. Don't let your story get in the way. If you get a flash of insight, write a book. You should start writing, but just start writing. You have no idea where that's going to take you. You may not even need to write the book. There might be that when you're writing, you have another flash of insight that gives you direction into a whole different thing that you didn't even recognize. So purpose is recognizing those stepping stone moments and finding the open doors. The other thing that you might want to do is to check in with your body with that. Our body is a great indicator of our purpose and we're on the right path, or not so much. If it feels like an opening, if it feels exciting, if it feels like, that's an open door. If the thought of what you're doing, you envision yourself doing it, and it feels like, the same old thing, or I don't know, it feels okay. I mean, I can do it. It's easy for me, but it doesn't feel full of passion or exciting at all. That's important. I remember I was working with someone and they were trying to decide whether or not they should, sell their business or keep it. And I said, okay, so I want you to imagine selling it. And it was like, I can see people's body language. She opened up and it was like, And I said, okay, now I want you to imagine doing this for another year, 2 years. And shoulders slump. That gives us some indication about where we're meant to go with this. Okay. So important that we follow all of that. Purpose, as I said, is a lot of right angles. And your job to find it is just pay attention to those small moments that are coming up into your life, the small spaces to go and explore. If you're meant to go back to school, if you're meant to change jobs, whatever it is, if you're meant to leave a relationship, then just take the first step. What does that look like? Go gather information, go talk to some people, go look at all of your options. And don't let that part of you shut you down that tells you you can't. Okay? Yeah, because that's loud within us. That's loud. So the truth, it might seem out of reach because it is. It's way out there. I want to go back to school and be a doctor. And I actually don't. But if you do, it might seem way down the line. But if you're feeling it, if it is right, start the first step. You never know where you're going to go. And the road will rise up to meet you where you are. When you're following that sense of purpose, amazing things start showing up. And that's the cool thing, because purpose isn't logical. So it's not, based in this logical mindset of I'm not going to have enough money. Purpose taps into that space of unlimited potential where anything is possible. Your only job is to focus on the next right thing. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Just take the step and then take the next step. And those steps will appear systematically as you grow. So some questions to get you started. I would love to know how this resonates with you, what comes up. Any more questions on what I've said here? I'm sure I've left out some stuff. When I have a class that I call the Gap of Change class. It's a super fun, popular class, really deep. I love the deep stuff. And it's all about this. So, and it takes me like a weekend or like 6 weeks to go through this stuff systematically. So I'm sort of giving you the overview. If you have more questions or details you want answers to, or you have comments, write them down below here or send them to me. You can find me at alekasky.com. But here's some questions to get you started. Some purpose questions. So what would you do if you were not afraid? Fear wasn't a factor. If your story didn't pop up, if you didn't listen to that inner critic that told you couldn't do it, what would you do? What would you want to do? And just dream. You have to have a dream before you have a dream come true. Just allow yourself to start brainstorming possibilities without editing yourself. Just go there for a minute. And then you feel out where you should go next with that. What do you see others doing that you want to do? Jealousy has a gift. It really does. I mean, I know that we don't see it that way sometimes, but it truly does. It can kind of say, hey, you know what? There's something about what they're doing that's resonating with me, and then find out what it is. So if somebody else is, in their own business, own business entrepreneur doing financial, counseling, great. What is it that you like about what they're doing? Is it the fact they're doing their own thing and you own your own business? Is it the fact that they're doing something different with finances that you find fascinating? What is it? What is it about the thing that you're seeing that you really want? Because when we set those goals, we want to make sure they're soul goals and not ego goals. So it's not the thing that they're doing that you say, I want. It's not the ladder, that's their ladder to climb, not yours. But what is it about that appeals to you? What fires you up about it? What are the current conditions in your life saying to you? Yeah, we talked a lot about that. So, what needs to stop? What needs to start? What needs to shut up? What needs to be listened to? When you let yourself go into the drift, and I call the drift that space of just being, what calls you? What do you dream about? When you daydream, what shows up? Kind of goes with the first question. So purpose is all around you. It's there. It's happening right now. This stuff that's in your life is part of your destiny. It's up to you to claim it. So the universe is trying to get your attention, and it truly, truly, truly does have your back. What is your life telling you? Good. Okay. That's a lot on purpose. Whew. Find me at alekasky.com. You can go down below here. You can find me on my Facebook page. You can email me through my website, any comments, questions, or anything you think. All right, go right now and think about this. Make that list, answer those questions, find that purpose. Okay, until next time.